Hello everybody, this is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and I am doing an impromptu Facebook Live here in the Spiritual Empowerment Community, our free Facebook group, all about spiritual empowerment and living your life on purpose and in alignment with your soul purpose and fully empowered. Those of you who are energetically sensitive, those of you who are empaths and feel bombarded by the energies around you, this group is for you as well. So I actually have been outside doing some self-care, and I don't have my stand, so the camera's a little bit wobbly, just holding it with my hands here. But I thought I would just jump on here. I did promise that I was going to do more Facebook Lives. My intent is to only hop on here when I'm really in the right vibe, you know, not just having a schedule of topics and making it in a forced sort of way. So let me tell you about what I just did, and then I have just a little message to share. And I just want to say, I'll turn the camera around in a little bit. I just happened to look beyond the camera and I saw that there's some stuff blooming in my yard. So, or it's like the green stuff, it's not blooming. The flowers aren't blooming yet, but there's like little green shoots coming up. And this is really exciting because we had like the hardest winter like ever this past winter. So we're just coming out of that. And those of you who are in the Midwest, I'm in the Kansas City area right now. Many of you know it was rough, and we're kind of recovering from that. So I titled this video "The Overglorification of Busy," and so I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and then I'm going to tell you what I just did. So this is one of those videos where I'm just like, I just press play. I don't have any notes. I'm just going to share with all of you. Okay, so I think we all know that most of us in the Western world are over busy, like we're over scheduled. We get up and we're go, go, go. If we have kids, we're taking them to soccer practice and piano lessons and like all this different stuff. And then we have activities that we're doing, and then we're working and we're going to the gym and we're doing all this stuff. And if you're an entrepreneur, then it's like you're expected to work 80 hours a week and never have a day off. and if you are not an entrepreneur and you have a standard job, then it's like you're definitely expected to work 40 hours a week or more. And if anyone says like you're not supposed to work 40 hours a week, or like if anyone presents that idea, or that if they say that they don't work 40 hours a week, there's maybe some part of your brain that's like, if they don't have a good excuse for why they're not working 40 hours a week, there's this part of us, this like societal conditioning that's like, oh, that person must be lazy. I don't know. I'm just like bringing in this information. This is just what's coming to me. I feel like this will resonate with some of you. So we have this like conditioning. It's like brainstorming from our society. And the reason why I titled this "The Overglorification of Busy" because we do glorify it. Like, people will be like, oh, I'm so busy, and they're sort of complaining about it, but they're also wearing it as a badge. Like, I'm just doing so much, you know, and they're wearing it like a badge, but they're also complaining about it because that's what we do, right? Like, that's what we do. We like complain about it, but we're also like making it a big deal. Like, hey, look, I'm so busy, I'm doing all this stuff. And it's kind of messed up, actually. So when you're super, super busy, you're actually burning the candle at both ends. And a lot of people on the planet, a lot of us on the planet, our bodies will no longer allow us to do that. So if you're anything like me, and I know we're all different, like we all have different body types and different energetic types, those of you who are watching this, but if you're anything like me, my body, I'm just sighing because I love my body and it's also sometimes frustrating. So my body it does not allow me, it does not allow me to be out of alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing. In other words, let's give today as an example. Today's Friday. I take my weekend usually on Thursday and Friday, sometimes Friday and Saturday. Since I'm self-employed, my schedule's kind of complicated. But I used to not take, just FYI, I used to not take any days off, or if someone needed me, I would still, I would still be there. I've gotten a lot more, I'm going to say like strict like, about my, like if it's my day off, it's my day off, because if I don't do that, then I get burned out, I get depleted. But anyway, so today's like my Saturday. Okay, this is my weekend because I work on the weekends usually. So this is my day off, but because I received major conditioning growing up, that like sitting and being and not working, like I received major conditioning that's lazy. Big major conditioning. My dad, bless his soul, he was a manager of a factory, so he was like middle management. And so he had all these philosophies about work ethic and everything, and so he tried to pass that down to me. But in hindsight, it was not very balanced. It was very hardcore, actually. And I remember there was even when I was in high school, and I know I'm rambling, you guys, but that's okay. It's okay. We're just sharing a message. I remember when I was back in high school, my body was already showing a lot of signs of sensitivity. Well, I was having a lot of psychic experiences, but my body was also showing sensitivity in that I was expected to go to school all day and then go have, a typical teenager part-time job. I worked at the frozen yogurt shop. Okay, it was a fun place to work, actually. But my body couldn't handle it even back then. I've always had a really sensitive system. So I remember I remember before I got the frozen yogurt job, I had a part-time job at a clothing store over the holidays, and after the holidays they didn't need me anymore, so they let me go. I was not very good at selling clothing. I was just too nice, like I wasn't pushy enough. But anyway, so they let me go, and so I didn't look for a new job right away. I thought, I'm just gonna let myself rest. I was a very spiritual teenager, that was kind of unusual for my age, and so I wanted to just like go and be out in nature and just do some healing before I got my next part-time job. And I remember my dad coming home from work and being like, you haven't gotten another job yet. And he was upset, and I tried to explain to him, like, I'm trying to take good care of myself. Like, here I'm thinking I'm showing like maturity and I'm trying to listen to my body, and he's like, he's got really angry and said that's lazy. But here's the thing. And by the way, I've worked with therapists on that thing, that we all have things from our childhood. I'm just laughing at how I'm talking in circles with you guys. I just woke up from a nap, you guys, so that's what's happening. But here's the thing. He may have been extra focused on work ethic because he was a boss, but he was just more clear cut about what the whole society is really saying. It's that, like, if you take a day off, you must be lazy, or like you have to be almost dead, like, in order to do that, or you need to have like a really good excuse. Um, and so, you know, he was just mirroring what our society in general says. And it's this, like, you're not a good person if you aren't working yourself to the bone, like working your fingers to the bone. Um, and that's not good for us. It's not good for us physically. It's not good for us mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, like all of that. It's not good for you. And again, as I mentioned before, if your system is anything like mine, your body won't even let you work a zillion hours. So I mentioned that today's my weekend. And because of all of that conditioning that I received in my childhood and from society, like all these years, that I have been very consciously working to heal and transmute, but it's still there. Like, it's still, I can definitely feel it. So because of that, I had this very typical scenario of mine that I recognized within myself. And it was that, okay, it's my weekend, the weather's beautiful, but there's this big to-do list of like administrative and office stuff and like organizing, and like I need to really call this person and I need to reach out and do this and that stuff for my work. Since I do work from home, and when, you know, it's like if you own your own business, the to-do list is never done. And this past week was busier than usual, so like there was more things left undone. And I'm like, oh, I should really be doing that. I should really be working on that. And I did end up working for about 30 minutes. There were some things there were some things that had to be done today. But after that, I was tempted to bring my computer outside and just keep working because there's all this stuff to do. And then I felt my body, and my body was like, I don't feel good. I feel tired, and just TMI warning, I'm going to talk about something right now, but it's relevant. So I could feel that I was getting ready to start my period. And for me, that means that I'll feel, well, so in the past, how my body would express that is that I would feel more tired. I might feel cramps, nausea. Sometimes there's vomiting. It's kind of intense. And I was like, well, I kind of don't have a choice. I need to go outside. That to-do list is going to be there later, like another day. And my body is not giving me a choice. And that's not such a bad thing. Like, it's like making me do what I should be doing anyway. It's my day off. It's time for me to do some self-healing and some integration. And that's why I moved here out to the country, was to come out here and sit on my blanket on the ground and lie on my blanket on the ground in the sun, in the shade, alternating, whatever, under a tree, doing some really deep shamanic work for myself, because my body needs it. So here's the reason why, one of the reasons why it's relevant that I mentioned that I was starting my period is, ladies and men who have ladies in your lives. When you are having your cycle, you are much more psychic. You are much more powerful. You're also more sensitive. And when you're trying to do your normal daily stuff, sometimes it puts your system on overload. And there's a lot of jokes about like women being really like testy, and they will blow up at you over something, but really it's whatever they're getting upset about is stuff that has been an issue all along, but because their alignment with their truth is so much stronger during that time, they are not as able to ignore those things that are not in alignment with them. And so those things that might be an issue all the time, but they just are like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. During their period, it's not okay. Because it's not okay anytime. But their system, when they're on their period, is not allowing them to accept things that are out of alignment. It's also a really powerful time to do self-healing, inner journeys, shamanic work. And so that's why it was so important for me to get outside. And so what I did is I went out into the sun. And I was kind of laughing when I was thinking about getting on here and telling you guys about this, because I'm kind of like a rotisserie. Like I'll set my timer and I will sit in the sun and I will look up at the sun and I will bring sunlight into my third eye and bring that light in to work with my pineal and all my glands, all my endocrine system, and also get sunlight on my thyroid as well, and bring light into my crown chakra, and then cleanse all of the chakras. And then I do my whole routine. There's a whole thing that I do where I create a grid of protection around me. It's always there, but I reinitiate it, call in my guides. I ground my energy, connecting, and again, I'm always grounded, but I'm reinitiating that, connecting to divine source. And then, because I tend to get sunburned pretty easily, that's why I have to do the rotisserie thing. So after 10 minutes, when my timer goes off, then what I did today was, then I went from seated position, I rolled onto my stomach, so I was laid flat, and just allowed all of the front of all of my chakras to literally be plugged into the earth. And also for all of my organs, like my uterus and my digestive system and all of my organs and my heart, to receive healing from the earth. And then I rolled over onto my back and allowed my spine to receive balancing. Excuse me, receive balancing. And today, what I did when I was face down and then also face up, that I worked on what I did with my eyes closed, and just I spoke the intention out loud to release. I'm just laughing. I'll tell you why I'm laughing in a second. To release any stored trauma, pain, suffering, anguish from my ancestors that may have been stored within my uterus. Just looking to see if there's anybody here. I don't see anybody. Okay. So that in the moment, as I was resting on the earth and just breathing, that's what came to me. I've done so much self-healing work, and each time I'll get a different layer of what's to be worked on. And I've done a lot of ancestral work, like tons and tons and tons. But what came to me today was to release not just the suffering from my birth mother, but from all of my ancestors, all of my ancestral line, any suffering, pain, anguish, all of that may have been stored within my womb, that be released. And then I felt, and I asked that it be done with ease and grace, because sometimes when we're initiating a release, then, I could have ended up in just horrible pain and bleeding a lot, menstrual bleeding, and not fun. So I specified it needed to be very gentle. And so there was this feeling like this gentle energy, like waves of energy, broadcasting out of the front of my belly and my low back. And the reason why I laughed just now was because I tuned into my body and I realized that I don't feel the pain that I was feeling before I came outside to do this work. So that's a good sign that some of that has been released. And I was also calling in the energy of peace into that part of my body. Just peace, everything, and safety. You're safe. Everything's fine. So that's what I did for my healing work today. And then now that I took the time to do that, then now in about an hour, I'm going to leave and go be present with some people at a spiritual event and help bring some good vibes there. And yeah, so as we wrap this up, think about how the difference between, if you feel like you're too busy to take an hour to do some deep rest on the earth, if you think that you're too busy to do that, imagine the difference between taking that hour and getting yourself out of that frenetic energy, like I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, I got to get this stuff done, and all of the pain that you're storing in your body as well, from just your daily situations, daily living, and then also past traumas. Imagine going on to your next thing still in that vibe, compared to if you take that hour or that whatever, that afternoon, that 30 minutes to sit with yourself and do the next layer of the work. And maybe that next layer of the work is to just lie down on a yoga mat in the grass and just be inert and don't be thinking about doing any healing, but just being. That's kind of what a lot of you need to be doing. Not so much the mental and the activating, like all the stuff that I just described, but to just let yourself be. So imagine if you just took some time to do that, and then the different kind of energy that you could bring with you into the next thing, and how much more clear you will be, and how much more, let's say it's a work thing, or are you getting things done at home? Think of how much more, like, you'll get things done more quickly and more focused, and you won't be wasting your time doing things that don't need to be done, because you'll just be very clear. So a lot of people, I'm thinking of a couple clients from long ago who would say, well, I don't have time to do that. And I could see how they were just like spinning this frenetic energy all the time, doing all this stuff that didn't need to be done. And if they could just disengage for a little while, then they would be able to release a lot of the excess doing that didn't even need to be done, that was keeping them in stress mode all the time. So before I totally wrap this up, let's take a second and talk about vulnerability. So not only is it good to take time off and stop over-glorifying busyness, but if you're in that over-busy mode all the time, then it actually can make you more vulnerable to all sorts of things. It can make you more vulnerable to stress-related illness. It can make you more vulnerable to any kind of illness, and that's physical, mental illness, depression, anxiety, and as far as physical illness, we store energy in our body, and if we don't take the time to process and transmute that energy, then it just stays stored. And after many years, eventually it can then manifest into the physical. Now, that's not the cause of all illness. To say that that is the case would be reductionist, like reducing something down to an oversimplified form. But it's definitely a thing, and it definitely does happen. So it's important to take the time to transmute that energy, to process and to release. If you are on a gerbil wheel all the time and not taking the time for healing, it can also make you more energetically vulnerable. And I know we have a lot of people in the group who are very sensitive to energies, and you may notice that when you take time to just be, like spend some time outside on a beautiful spring afternoon, that you're able to handle being around people and energies that would normally be super difficult for you. So have you noticed that you're able to manage that better? So the other thing is, if you don't take time like this for rest and self-care, then those of you who are vulnerable to psychic attacks, spiritual warfare kinds of issues will become more vulnerable to it, because when you are depleting yourself by not resting and not doing this kind of healing work for yourself, then it actually it causes your auric field to become weaker. And your auric field is part of your protective bubble. So whether you're vulnerable to the freaky stuff that's out there, or just the energies of the annoying people at work, or negative thoughts from people, or what have you, it works pretty much the same way. That if you are not replenishing your energy, you are more vulnerable to being affected by whatever issues you tend to have. So it's super important. So it's a beautiful spring day, and I don't know, I think it's supposed to rain tomorrow, but wherever you are on the planet, I hope you find a little piece of sunshine. And if it's raining, then still go outside, sit under a porch or something, and just breathe and just rest and do what you can to release that overglorification of busy. Next time you catch yourself complaining about how busy you are and you're doing this and this and this and this, recognize that you're complaining about it because a part of you realizes that it's not good for you, but you're also complaining about it because you're over glorifying it. You're wearing it as a badge. Like, look, everybody, see how I'm doing this thing. And I would encourage you to catch yourself next time you're doing that. And instead of wearing that badge, take a breath and think about what you can do to modify your schedule or your week or what have you, so that you have a little more time to just be, so that when you are doing the doing, you are more effective at it. So keep that in mind. If you are having this thought that, well, I don't have time to do that, Maya, somehow she has time to do that. Believe me, I have a huge to-do list, you guys. When you take the time to be like this, to just be, then your schedule ends up transforming in a different way. Like I mentioned before, the things that you're doing that are really unnecessary, that really don't even need to be done or could be done in a more efficient way, once you've taken some time to clear your mind, you're able to see that. And then the things that you do are more effective. So it's worth it to take this time. Okay. I want you to move out of this overglorification of busy, where it's actually one of the causes why you are so energetically vulnerable. So that's some food for thought for you. I'm going to go ahead and get some healthy food, I think, have a little snack, and then go on to my next thing. I hope you all are having a beautiful week, and I will see you next time. Bye.